Welcome everybody. I am AnnaLee Dragon, the director of the Kinderhook Memorial Library, and I am back with another Monday book talk. So exciting stuff, new books. So I actually got 2 boxes of new books just recently, and there is a lot to get through. So I am not going to spend an immense amount of time on each book. I'm going to blow through a whole bunch of fiction and nonfiction, and I thought we'd start with nonfiction first. So it is like biography month. Everybody in the world has a new biography out and they all look great. So I wanted to cover some of the biggies. So the first book I was going to talk about is by John Meacham, who won the Pulitzer Prize. And this book is called His Truth is Marching On, John Lewis and the Power of Hope. And I will be putting the covers of these at the end. You will see them all, so don't worry if you didn't get to write them down or anything. So obviously we lost John Lewis this year. He was a major force in civil rights, the civil rights movement, an icon, was a congressman. And so this coming from John Meacham, who wrote the Pulitzer Prize winning book, The Soul of America, I think is going to be a really great and intimate portrait of this person who was so powerful and so meaningful, especially in the year of the tumultuousness around Black Lives Matter movements and police brutality movements and things like that. I think everybody is interested in hearing more about this leader of the civil rights movement. So His Truth is Marching On, John Lewis and the Power of Hope. And then another great leader from a different time though, there is a new biography of Eleanor Roosevelt, just called Eleanor, by David Michaelis, and it got really great reviews. It said that it's compulsively readable and exhaustively researched. It is a beautiful book. I will say there's photographs in it, and it's drawing on new research, apparently. David Michaelis' riveting portrait of Eleanor Roosevelt is the first cradle-to-grave single-volume biography of this major American figure in decades. So I am exceedingly interested in reading this because she was one of the most influential and widely admired American women, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. Just a fascinating person, an activist, humanitarian, and so there is a brand new biography. If you love Eleanor Roosevelt or you don't know much about her, maybe this is the time to pick up this new book and check it out. Then we have one which I am also excited to read because it's about food. It is called The Man Who Ate Too Much, The Life of James Beard, by John Birdsall. And James Beard award is a big thing in the restaurant industry, and so this is all about the man who the award is named after. So it's the definitive biography of America's best known and least understood food personality and the modern culinary landscape that he shaped. I love Top Chef. I'm not actually a great cook, but I love to watch other people cook, and I like to read about them, and I love a good restaurant. So I am very fascinated by a biography of James Beard because I know of the award, but I don't know much about him as a person. So I think this should be an excellent read. And then we have one for all of you true crime fans out there. We have one called Dancing with the Octopus. That is a memoir of a crime. And so it's by Deborah Harding. And it is for people, they say, who loved Educated and The Glass Castle, which were both excellent memoirs and very popular. So if you found one of those interesting, this might be a next good read for you. It is a profoundly inspiring memoir of childhood trauma and its long reach into adulthood. So I think it's about the author lived in the 70s was a child in the 70s in Omaha. And so she was abducted at knife point from a church parking lot. And so this is her story. And I thought it's interesting because it's biography and crime. And also I think, like we talked about, it has childhood trauma and some other things that are similar to The Glass Castle and Educated, which many of you loved. So Dancing with the Octopus. Then we have a great book that I've read a lot about and have not picked up yet. It's called The Zealot and the Emancipator. And it is by H.W. Brands, and it is John Brown and Abraham Lincoln and the Struggle for American Freedom. So it says it's master storyteller and best-selling historian Brands narrating an epic struggle over slavery as embodied by John Brown and Abraham Lincoln, 2 men moved to radically different acts to confront our nation's greatest sin. And again, I think given the climate that we are currently living in, this might be a really good history to read up on some of the background of how we ended up where we are today and why we're still fighting these battles. So 2 great men being chronicled and a great looks like a great book. So I'm very excited to read it. If anybody else is interested, you can put it on hold or check it out. And then we've got a few more memoirs here. We've got a graphic novel memoir, which I think is really cool. I know we have some readers of graphic novels in our library. It's called Happiness Will Follow by Mike Hawthorne. And I don't know much about this other than his mother is left alone to raise her son in New York City. And when Mike falls victim to a death curse, a haunting sign from the old country of something his mother could never truly escape, she begins a series of events that drive him away both physically and emotionally. So again, maybe if you're into the Glass Castle kind of memoirs about childhood traumas and overcoming them, this might be an interesting take. And if you've never read a graphic novel, they're really cool. They're like a comic book sort of, but they tell the story. They're not just for kids anymore, and some really fantastic graphic novels have been written. So if you haven't checked one out, this might be a good entree into that. And then we've got Memorial Drive, A Daughter's Memoir by Natasha Trituthi, which she is the winner of the Pulitzer Prize. And this is a chillingly personal and exquisitely wrought memoir of a daughter reckoning with the brutal murder of her mother at the hands of her former stepfather, and the moving, intimate story of a poet coming into her own in the wake of tragedy. These are all very heavy, and I'm realizing that now. We'll get into some fun fiction in a minute, but I know there are a lot of memoir readers out there and people who love reading someone else's story, and especially when it's someone they've heard of, like a famous poet or, a famous political figure. So these are all things, and I think sometimes we all deal with hard things in our lives, and sometimes reading about somebody else who struggled through those things and made it through is helpful in our own survival and our own moving past those things. So even though these are all heavy books, they've all gotten excellent reviews, and I'm excited to read many of them. So I hope you are too. And then on the last biography I have here is called The Times I Knew I Was Gay. And it's by Eleanor Cruz. And this one is supposed to be very funny. So it deals with kind of serious subject matter, but is very funny, unrelatable, which is sort of my favorite kind of book. And this one is a mix. It's sort of like a graphic novel. It's not heavy in text. It's heavy in imagery. It's not the same format as the comic book one, but it is a graphic novel. So we have this excellent new book out too, and this one's called Evocative, Authentic, and Hilarious. So maybe it's a good remedy to some of the more serious things that we're reading about here. And the last one is sort of a biography, not of a person, but it's called American Cheese. I am a cheese lover myself. And so this one is an indulgent odyssey through the artisan cheese world. And it is by Joe Berkowitz. And it says on the cover, Jim Gaffigan, who is a famous comedian, said, "Who knew it was possible to enjoy reading about cheese as much as eating it?" That alone makes me want to pick up this book because I do love eating cheese. And I think that it's an interesting subworld that some people are very into, and there's a lot to know about it. So I am eagerly awaiting this, and I have a friend who is equally into cheese, and I'm sure we will be reading this and talking about it probably while eating some cheese. Okay, so now on to some fiction for those of you who are waiting on that. So we have a few big names and then some new ones that are authors I had not heard of yet that I'm excited about. So the first one is a John Grisham book. It is called A Time for Mercy, and it's his newest book. And I know there's already a ton of holds on this one, but I did buy multiple copies and large print. Nobody's left out. So this is a Jake Brigance novel, who was the one from A Time to Kill. So if you read that recently, I talked about it in a book talk. This is the same character, new story, continuation of story. But it's a courtroom drama, very Grisham, very classic Grisham. And I'm super excited because I love that character. So I'm eager to see his return and see what he's been doing. There's another new book out called Snow by Booker Prize winning author John Banville. And it's a novel, and it says it's all the trimmings of a classic mystery elevated by Banville's immaculate penetrating prose. So it is the next great crime novel, if that's what you're looking for. And he is an Irish author. If you're very into writing itself, the way the words are put together and how things are phrased and the kind of poetry, lyrical writing, I think John Banville is a good choice, because not all murder mysteries are written that way. Some of them are kind of pulpy fiction, but he writes really beautifully, and then also about kind of fast-paced crime thrillers. So Snow by John Banville, brand new. Then there is this new book called Dear Child, and it is by Romy Hausman. And the thing that got me on this one is the cover says it's the book Room meets the book Gone Girl, and it's gripping. So those were two hugely popular thrillers a few years ago, and I know I get people all the time who love those and are looking for the next thing. This is it, I think. It's a woman held captive, finally escapes, but can she ever really get away? So I think that this is chilling and original and a thriller and a page turner, but in the style of some books that have been super popular. And so if you're looking for read-alike for either Room or Gone Girl, or any of the kind of other books along those lines that I've suggested, like In a Dark, Dark Wood, this might be a really great read for you. And then I've got one that is a little less crime fiction, and a debut novel, which we all know I love. It is called The Lost Shtetl by Max Gross. And it says it's a remarkable debut novel about a small Jewish village in a Polish forest that is so secluded no one knows it exists until now. So this is supposed to be a great book that I read wonderful things about. Entertaining, thought-provoking. It says a work of a rigorous fabulist who creates one memorable character after another. So if it looks like if you're looking for something that is a little more character driven and or you're interested, you have Jewish heritage or you're interested in that, I think that this could be an excellent read, and it got really great reviews in all of the book journals and things. So I'm excited for that one. And then we've got a few more to get through here, and I just kind of want to blow through them. One I am very excited about with it, being around Halloween time, is this one called The Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow, who was the author of 10,000 Doors of January, which was a fantasy novel that I really enjoyed. So this is a glorious tale that will sweep you away. And so if you're into some witches and some ferocious power of women, it says, sold. I'll be reading that one. There is also this book called The Devil and the Dark Water by Stuart Turton, who wrote The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. And it's a murder on the high seas, a detective duo, and a demon who may or may not exist. Also sounds fascinating. Has a great cover too. I know they say don't judge a book by a cover, but we all do, right? And then there's just two other thrillers that I'm going to throw up here. The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher and When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. Again, I'm going to put a picture of all these covers at the end, but these are thrillers, chillers, horror fans, people who are in the October mood of spookiness. So I've got all of these books are in the collection. They're in the catalog. You can request them right away. You're only waiting behind our patrons for them. And I don't want to keep you too long today, but I'm so glad you were here to go through another unboxing with me. And we will be back next week with more cool things to talk about. And if you have any suggestions or things you want me to discuss, just let me know. Make an appointment, pick up your curbside books, check us out online, our online programming, and let us know if there's anything we can do to help, okay? We'll talk to you soon. Bye.